Welcome everyone to the Center for Loss and Grief in Ra'anana. My name is Etta Bendavid, and this tutorial is on anticipatory grief relating to the end of life. My hope for this tutorial is to name what makes this very tender, seemingly incredibly difficult time as chaotic and as uncertain as it is, and to find a way to, in fact, change this perspective and find the opportunities in this time. Dare I even say, to find the gifts in this time of anticipating one's end of life, so that we can complete several tasks. We can find a way to reconcile the relationships that we'd like to reconcile. We can choose how we would like to die. And we can find a way to articulate the legacy that we hope to leave here. Bless the people we want to bless, instruct those we'd like to instruct, and to find really a sense of completion, to find a sense of meaning in this very seemingly tender and difficult time. So let's get started on what's commonly known as the three big tasks at the end of one's life, also called the spiritual tasks, common to many different people, no matter what religion. Okay, so these three spiritual tasks articulated by Doga, one of the leaders of grief counseling, are the following. 1, we all want to be able to look back on our life and articulate how our life has been meaningful, what relationships have been most meaningful, what has been the meaning of our lives. And so conducting a life review, sharing your stories, taking an accounting of your life, your journey, whether it's by writing it down or articulating it to others who will then write it down, or it's sharing and answering questions about it, or just reflecting on and with those people who have been most essential, most meaningful for you, how you have lived, how to find the meaning in your life, the joy, the accomplishments, the relationships. Being able to reflect on those is key. Secondly, articulating and finding a way to choose, knowing your options of how you would hope to die, the death that you would most like. In other words, if I were to ask you right now, where would you like to be buried? You may or may not be able to answer that, even with or without blinking. It may be something so foreign to you, but it actually may be something, oh, you know what, I've thought a lot about this, and I either have a plot or I would like to have a plot in a certain place so that it is accessible to those who will be mourning for me, so that it is in a place that I know will bring comfort and joy to others, so it is a place that I know I would like to be laid down for eternally. Or perhaps it's something to discuss with your medical team. In other words, if your heart were to stop, would you like to die naturally? Or would you like certain interventions? And if so, what kinds of interventions? These are very important choices. They are hard choices, but they are important choices. And you have the opportunity to reflect on that in this time. However long you are here, please God, you may even change your mind as you get, as you may continue to go through this, either an illness or whatever it is, the prognosis that you have or you feel. Being able to choose how you would like to die is key. It's also how to choose what happens at your funeral. Whom would you like to speak? What would you like? This is finding a very tender time, finding the gift in that. How can you choose the most meaningful death for you? And the third is the hope or the legacy that lies beyond the grave. How would you hope to be remembered? What is the legacy that you're leaving here? What are the blessings you hope to give to others? How would you like your resources to be used? And for what? It's being able to articulate and share and communicate your wishes with others and communicate your hopes for others, whether they're your children or whether they're rest of your family or friends. How would you like to be remembered? What is the legacy? Now, there are many ways to do this, whether it's an actual legacy project and inviting people to write down um, blessings, or for you to articulate how you hope to be remembered. Many people are actually skilled in doing this with you or for you, and this is an option as well. Now, there is a tension in Judaism specifically about refraining from talking about death and end of life. But I want to actually, I want to break that stigma with the following midrash, with the following allegorical text. And it comes from Pirkei Rabbi Eliezer, and it's about Jacob, Yaakov Avinu. According to this midrash, until Yaakov Avinu became sick and died, people would actually not become ill. They would just be walking in the shuk, walking in the marketplace, and suddenly they would sneeze and their souls would depart. That's where we also get this idea of bless you after somebody sneezes. But Yaakov Avinu came around and he requested compassion from God and said, please don't take my soul from me until I give instructions and blessings to my children. And God heard this request, and God heeded this request. And that's why it says in the Torah, that is why Yosef and his brothers were given the warning, your father is ill, come now, so that you can receive his blessing. You can receive his instruction. And that is exactly what Yaakov Avinu does. He actually is able to articulate his hopes, his fears. He's able to get to a place of discussing how he would hope to be remembered and how he hopes his legacy will continue in this world. How do I go from thinking you're going to die or expecting a death, however long it's going to be, it's so out of our hands, to finding a way to even talk about it as an opportunity or even a gift? Isn't that absurd? And the truth is that if you reflect on what keeps you from discussing death, that is really key. What is preventing you from discussing death? Is it a stigma? Is it a fear that if you talk about death, you're going to literally pass away, God forbid, or you're going to stick the idea in somebody else's mind? And in truth, this is what holds people back. Consider when I've worked with medical teams, many people are afraid of bringing up the option even of goals of care or plans of care, which was the second task, right? How you would hope to die, because many medical professionals are afraid that in talking about that, it's going to be a sign of their failure. That if their goal is to make sure that a person stays alive for as long as possible, they don't want to discuss the option of even death or even the options that could be given to somebody to die a peaceful death. And so this is really important. Before even talking to other people about what their hopes are for the end of life, it's important to reflect, what would I want? What holds me back from talking about death and dying? It really is an enormous task. Anticipatory grief is a task, but it's also an opportunity. Within that, we are somehow accepting reality of the diagnosis. Within itself is very difficult. We're adjusting to life with this illness, and we're finding a way to prepare, perhaps with some anxiety, but perhaps with even hopes for the approaching death. And of course, this results in many different emotions. But again, translating these 3 spiritual tasks into another way, this is an opportunity to Do a life review. Not everyone has this opportunity. Some people do sneeze and literally pass away metaphorically in our world. So being able to pause, taking an accounting of your life that you've had, the relationships, the meaning, the accomplishments, finding a way to complete unfinished tasks, finding a way to plan a relatively good death, choosing your goals or plans of care, discussing it with your medical team, planning a funeral, planning where you would hope to be buried, and finding hope beyond the grave. What are you leaving here in this world? How do you hope your legacy will continue? It's important to reflect on all of the things as we're taking a reality and accepting the reality of this inevitable loss. What we are facing, the losses that we're facing. We're facing material loss. Now, by the way, this can come with any type of loss, whether it's moving from one country to another, but it's also reflecting on the home that you will not see anymore, and perhaps even reflecting on a goal of care. The second task, how you would hope to die, where you would hope to die. Is it in an inpatient unit, hospice? Is it in your own home? Being able to share this with others, the relationships, saying goodbye to even a loss of a dream, which, by the way, again, could happen at any point. All of these losses can really be at any point of life. It's not related. It's not only for end of life. It is for any type of loss. Intrapsychic loss is you would hope to maybe have some type of closure of a relationship which came apart years earlier, and you always hope to have that, and yet you realize you won't, or you find a way to actually find a way to close that. These are many types of losses, recognizing also before death that there will be inevitably a big gaping hole that your absence will leave in a family or in a community. That's the systemic loss of the way a system will cope with someone's death. As we reflect on if our lives had meaning, I want to share this graph that I found in Cooper Wipe's pastoral book called Shared Wisdom. And you'll see that these are questions that relate to really any time of life. Am I safe? Do I belong? Am I worthy? Right? These are questions that anyone has when they start a new school, or also at the end of life when you reflect on where you've been all of these years. Now, it's interesting that this theory is that depending on how you answer this, whether it's positively, yes, my life has had value, my life has been meaningful, and I have made a difference in being here. If you answer positively, you may actually have a different relationship with God and with your fellow people, and even yourself, right? The relationships, the threefold relationships between yourself, between others, and with the divine. This may affect that depending on how you answer, positively on a spectrum or more negatively. If we take this last question, is my life meaningful? Do or did I make a difference? Now, if you reflect on this as no, I really feel, unfortunately, many people feel, what have I done here in this world? I'm leaving without value. I'm leaving without doing anything. I'm dying without having accomplished the things I wanted to accomplish, be it in relationships, be it in professional or personal life. This is a very horrible feeling to have, but it leaves us feeling meaningless. And it presents the divine as one of, unfortunately, God who is silent. I could have done so much, but you withheld that from me. And it's a feeling of despair in your relationships with others. It would be so wonderful to be able to look back on the things that have brought us meaning, on reflecting on how I have made a difference, and on the vocation, the purpose, the creativity that we've had in this world and that we've left here. Finding, even in the relationship with God, God as affirming, God has brought blessing. God has been present, maybe hidden, but somehow present, and therefore had a hand in the way that I've led my life. With any of these questions, you can actually go either way. And you can also find sometimes we go to the left, we sometimes feel we go to the right. And there's method for this chaotic feeling, which can lead to existential and theological crisis as well, which we hope to avoid. However, when we do feel angry, when we do feel upset with God, I want to always validate. I want to always find a way to remind people that you are not alone. You are not alone. And in fact, to be able, just as we want to find reconciliation in relationships with others, maybe by channeling this anger at the divine in words directed to God, we actually can find a sense of healing. You would not be alone. In fact, you would be in very good company if you allowed this anger to be as loud, to be as verbal as you'd like. How so? Look at Psalms shared with across denominations, across religions. If you look at the first 5 verses here, it's expressively very angry at the divine. How long, God, will you forget me? How long will you hide your face from me? How long will I have sorrow in my heart? All day? Look at me, God. It's demanding. Look at me. Lighten my eyes, or I will sleep in death, or my enemy, this illness, my fears, my anger will overwhelm me. And I feel completely defeated. If we can find a way to express that, as this psalmist does, we may actually find a way. We may to authentically reach the 6th line, which is, I will try and trust in God's salvation, and I will sing to God because God has been good to me. If only we could get there. A beautiful song, by the way, by Jonathan Razel. We talk about our relationships between us and God. Well, what about our relationships with us and others? In his book, The 4 Things That Matter Most, Dr. Ira Byock, a palliative care doctor, does just that. He names beautifully the things that he's witnessed in his palliative care and his interdisciplinary work with spiritual care, emotional care providers and counselors, such as the work that we do, that I do, and realizing beautifully in his research that when people are able to speak honestly and openly to one another about these 4 things, they inevitably result in having a better death and a more comforting and healthy grieving process thereafter, which is another tutorial about grieving after and for bereavement. But right now, for those who are in this path, this anticipatory grief, how do we find reconciliation? Being able to talk, being able to respond to one another, being able to actually forgive one another. We are human. Inevitably, to love is to also cause pain. When we love, we can also hurt very deeply. And so finding that and being able to ask for forgiveness. Please forgive me. And being specific about what you're asking forgiveness for. And then finding a way to honestly and openly, lovingly forgive. To thank those we've loved, we will love. To thank them and to thank them for all of that. We are thankful, and being specific. And of course, being able to be specific about how you've loved them and why you love them, for all of the things that they've done, for how they've taught you, for the wisdom they've left for you in this world. All of these things, 4 things: forgive me, I forgive you, thank you, I love you. And being able to harness these and be specific and have conversations. It is normal to feel exhausted by them. It is normal to feel anxious about them. these topics. But once you bring them up, you will see it actually results in wonderful reconciliations. It results in a burden lifting, and it results in being able to be articulate and not just say, oh, they know that I love them, but actually to articulate it results in really a healthy, uplifting feeling. Other interventions that are helpful in this time is being able, if whether or not your relationship with the divine or with God is one that is open, you may or may not find comfort in certain words or rituals. You may or may not find comfort in vidui, which is confessions. And by the way, about this, confessions, the Shulchan Aruch has stated that many people have said vidui, have said confession at the end of life. That's the, modani and saying Shema and al chet shechatati lefanecha, and all of those confessions which are common to Yom Kippur, we do at the end of life as well. Many people have said this, said the Shulchan Aruch, and have gone on living. In other words, something to remember that it is always, we often feel it's often too early to say this, and then it's too late. So not being afraid to have these conversations with one another and having these conversations with God and finding the words, whether it's in the Shulchan Aruch's texts or our Siddur, or whether it's in your own heart, to finding the ways to channel what is on our hearts and minds into the tefillot, into the spontaneous texts and blessings and prayers that we have for ourselves and for others around us. This is an example of a prayer that I helped to write for somebody whose loved one died in another country during Corona. So we're going to pause here. I hope that it has been helpful. And remembering the 3 tasks. 1, reflecting on your life, doing a life review with others, on your own, with many different people, and taking an accounting of the life that you've lived, the meaning that you've left here, the meaning you're going to miss, all the people and relationships that have been most tender, most blessed for you. 2, the kind of death you actually would like, taking a pause and reflecting on what would you like? Who would you like to speak at your funeral? Where would you like to be buried? And have you thought of your goals and plans of care yet? There are many organizations, by the way, that can help articulate these conversations, whether it's Matai or other resources. The Dying Patient Act, for example, only started in Israel in 2017, but has been around for years and years in the States. And lastly, the hope that lies beyond the grave, the legacy that you hope to leave here, and the blessings you'd like to give to those you love. I wish you healing even if there's no cure, healing and much love and much strength and much resilience. God bless.